In a quiet town, where whispers of magic linger like the scent of jasmine in the air, how do you know if you are truly chosen? Is it through the shimmering visions, the voices that echo in the silence, or is it the gentle tug at your heart that speaks of a greater purpose? Elara, a thoughtful woman in her late 20s, feels the weight of unfulfilled dreams pressing against her chest. Abandoned by society's expectations, she is a seeker in a world that seems to have forgotten the magic of existence. Yet, in this stillness, she is destined to unearth her true self, a chosen one, whose journey will weave together the fabric of reality and uncover the hidden forces that govern her life and the lives of those around her. In the heart of the small town of Eldoria stood a solitary willow tree, its branches reaching toward the ethereal blue sky like arms yearning for an embrace. This ancient tree was a witness to time, holding within its trunk the secrets of those who walked the earth long before Elara drew her first breath. Beneath its foliage, Elara sat often, her heart heavy with unspoken dreams. She was a young woman with a soft smile and deep, searching eyes, seeking something ineffable yet essential to her existence. For Elara, the world swirled in shades of gray. Each day felt the same, a monotonous loop of routines that offered little more than fleeting moments of joy. The townspeople bustled around her, ensnared in their daily lives, blissfully unaware of the mystical energies that drifted through the air like petals in the wind. Elara would observe them, wondering why she felt so different, so palpably disconnected from the vibrancy of life that thrummed around her. In her childhood, Elara found solace in the tales spun by her grandmother under the soft glow of candlelight. Stories of brave souls, mystical creatures, and hidden realms ignited the spark of imagination within her. But as she grew, those stories began to feel like distant lullabies, lost in the cacophony of reality. She believed her destiny lay within the mundane, a soul destined to blend into the backdrop of life. However, as she entered her 20s, shadows began to dance at the edges of her consciousness. Elara experienced strange dreams where she raced through luminous landscapes where the very air shimmered with possibility. In these dreams, she would sometimes encounter a faceless figure that whispered ancient secrets, connecting her to a truth much larger than herself. But when the morning sun would rise, she would shrug these experiences off as mere figments of her imagination, fleeting dreams that evaporated with the dawn. One fateful night, beneath the silver glow of the full moon, Elara returned to the willow tree, drawn by an intuitive whisper. As she placed her hand on the tree's rough bark, she felt a surge of energy flow through her, igniting a bright light within her heart. The ground beneath her trembled subtly, as if awakening from a long slumber, and in that moment, Elara realized that her life was about to shift irrevocably. The very next day, as she ventured into town, a series of strange occurrences began to unfold. She arrived at the local bakery, entranced by the aroma of freshly baked bread. But something within her stirred a knowing that her presence would spark something more than mere conversation. As she purchased a loaf, the baker's flour-dusted hands trembled slightly, and a soft voice whispered, "You are one of them, aren't you?" Elara felt her heart quicken. The words hung in the air, thick with meaning, and for a moment, the world around her faded. She learned the baker, an elderly man named Harold, was well versed in the tales of the chosen one's beings who possessed extraordinary powers bestowed upon them by divine energies. Each of them carried a unique purpose meant to guide others and protect the fragile balance of their world. In the days that followed, Elara sought Harold's wisdom, drawn into his tales like a moth to a flame. As she listened to him speak of bravery, destiny, and the trials faced by those before her, she felt a flicker of recognition ignite inside her heart. The doubts that had clouded her mind for years began to dissipate, replaced by an insatiable longing to explore her dormant power. Yet, doubt still clung stubbornly to her mind. As Elara lay in bed that night, fear crept in, wrapping around her soul like a cold mist. What if I am not chosen? What if I am merely a dreamer condemned to an ordinary life? But in her heart, a soft voice replied, soft yet powerful, reminding her that the chosen ones had once stood where she stood, questioning their place in the world. The next morning, she made up her mind to embark on the path of discovery, to reclaim the identity she felt so deeply within her. As days passed, whispers of her burgeoning power echoed through the town, drawing attention from unexpected sources. While some revered her, others eyed her with skepticism and fear, emboldened by an ancient force that had lurked in the shadows for centuries. Unknown to Ilara, the balance in Eldoria was delicate, and the awakening of a chosen one would set into motion a series of events that would prove equally daunting and adventurous. Ilara's journey had just begun. Part 1, the awakening of purpose. Ilara's journey towards self-discovery began to unfold, but like a fragile thread, she felt both the excitement and trepidation woven into each new encounter. Each moment was marked with the weight of her ancestors, whispering through the ages, guiding her steps. Her sessions with Harold deepened her understanding of the mystical forces at play, yet the doubts lingered, gnawing at the edges of her mind. One evening, under the canopy of twinkling stars, Ilara decided to share her encounters with a friend, a lively woman named Mira, who had always been a source of encouragement. "Mira, I think I'm one of the chosen ones," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper, as they walked along the illuminated path beneath the willow tree. Mira paused, turning to Ilara with wide, disbelieving eyes. "You, Ilara? A chosen one? What makes you think so?" "I feel something stirring within me, like a part of me has been asleep for too long. I can access these energies," she confessed, revealing the tremor in her own voice, a cocktail of fear and exhilaration. "But does that even mean anything?" Mira stepped closer, the warmth of her friendship wrapping around them like a soft blanket. "Maybe it means you're destined for something greater, Ilara. You've always had a light about you. This could be your moment." The earnestness in Mira's voice filled Ilara's heart with a glimmer of hope, but the shadows of doubt crept back in. "What if I fail? What will it mean if I let everyone down?" Just then, they were interrupted by a rustling in the distance. Emerging from the darkness was an elderly figure, cloaked and mysterious, yet radiating a magnetic presence. It was Orion, the wise sage of Eldoria, and a guardian of the chosen ones. "Ilara," he spoke softly, but with an authority that commanded attention. "The journey of the chosen ones is not one of ease. It is fraught with challenges that test not only your strength, but your heart." A chill ran down Ilara's spine as she recognized the gravity of his words. "You must be willing to embrace both light and darkness, for it is within the struggle that you'll reveal your true power." His presence felt both comforting and daunting, sparking something deep within her. Curiosity bubbled within Ilara as they invited Orion into their conversation. "But what if my own darkness consumes me?" she questioned, her voice trembling with the weight of her vulnerability. Orion regarded her with deep yet piercing eyes and replied, "We all carry shadows within us, Ilara. But to deny them is to deny a piece of yourself. Embrace the fear, the doubt, and allow them to guide you into the light." With this revelation, Ilara felt a surge of empowerment. Perhaps facing her darkness was not a barrier, but a bridge to her true self. Inspired, Ilara continued her training with Orion, learning to channel her abilities through meditation and visualization. Each session deepened her connection to the cosmos, revealing her innate gifts: healing, intuition, and an extraordinary affinity for nature. Under Orion's guidance, she began to weave spells with the energy that flowed through trees, rivers, and winds. One day, as they practiced beneath the willow, Ilara closed her eyes and visualized the vibrant threads of energy around her. She felt warmth envelop her body, tingling in her fingertips. When she opened her eyes, to her astonishment, flowers had bloomed all around her, vibrant colors dancing in the sunlight. Orion nodded approvingly. "You see, Alara, you are awakening to your gifts. But remember, light attracts darkness. It is only a matter of time before you encounter challenges that will seek to test you." Days turned into weeks, and Alara's powers blossomed, but so did the tension in Eldoria. Whispers began to circulate through town, rumors of strange occurrences accompanying her newfound skills. Some revered her as a beacon of hope, while others viewed her with suspicion. Those fears gave rise to unease, as loved ones began to distance themselves. Alara found herself confronted not only by the external chaos, but also by her internal storm. Each time a wave of doubt crashed over her, she sought refuge in the protective embrace of the willow tree, feeling torn between her gifts and the price of wielding them. What does it mean to be chosen? She pondered to herself late one night, tracing the patterns in the tree's bark. At that moment, when silence enveloped her like an embrace, she suddenly felt a pulse of energy vibrating through the ground, and shadows began to dance at the edge of her vision. Confronted by an unsettling presence, Alara's pulse quickened. "Fear not," the voice echoed. "I am your potential and your challenge. Embrace what lies ahead." As she stood rooted to the spot, the weight of inevitability settled on her shoulders. She understood that she was just beginning her path, her awakening extending into the throes of uncertainty. The air grew thick with suspense, whispering of an impending dark force. They would soon face the Shadow Weaver, an entity birthed from the fears and doubts that plagued the inhabitants of Eldoria. As these thoughts churned through her mind, Alara recalled Orion's encouragement to embrace her powers and confront the shadows. With a nurturing resolve, she vowed to stand firm against any darkness that sought to extinguish her light. Thus began Alara's internal conflict, her charming yet daunting journey of acceptance. She was not just awakening as a chosen one. She was transitioning into a beacon of guidance for others, a mantle not easily worn, but one she felt compelled to embrace. The challenges that lay ahead would test her mettle, bind her with her chosen companions, and ultimately reveal the truest essence of what it meant to be chosen. Part 2. The gathering of spirits as the days turned into what felt like an endless cycle of trials and tribulations. Alara found herself increasingly uneasy with her emerging identity as a chosen one. The eerie presence of the Shadow Weaver loomed ever closer, whispering insidious thoughts, a haunting reminder of the fears that lingered at the back of her mind. She struggled against the tide of uncertainty as her dreams transformed from mystical journeys into nightmarish encounters with a figure cloaked in shadows. Determined to confront these inner demons, Alara sought out her mentor, Orion, for guidance. One afternoon, she trekked to his humble cottage, the scent of burning sage enveloping her like a warm embrace. As she entered, she found Orion seated cross-legged in meditation, surrounded by colorful crystals that shimmered in the afternoon light. "Tell me, Alara, what weighs heavily upon your heart?" he asked, not opening his eyes. "I am afraid," she admitted, her voice trembling as she sat before him. "The more I learn, the more I feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on me. How can I embrace my true self if I am haunted by doubt?" A faint smile graced Orion's wise face as he opened his eyes. Fear is a part of the human experience. It serves to remind us of our vulnerabilities and strengths alike. The first step in unearthing your potential is to recognize such emotions without allowing them to govern you. He paused and offered her a crystal, its surface glinting like a myriad of stars. "Hold this and breathe deeply." As Alara closed her fingers around the crystal, she felt a surge of energy coursing through her. In that moment, Orion's voice faded from her awareness as she slipped into a deep state of meditation, the crystal illuminating her inner landscape. Dark tendrils loomed in the distance, but they were transformed into familiar faces those she loved and cared for, feared and wished to protect. Among them was Mira, her vibrant friend, a steadying presence amid the turmoil. In her vision, Mira reached out. "Elara, we are waiting for you. Your light is needed." Just as quickly, the scene distorted and the shadows encroached, tying Elara's heart in knots. Elara jolted back to reality, her heart pounding with urgency. "I cannot let them down," she whispered, fear rising once more, igniting her resolve. "I must reach out to others who can help." With newfound determination, she gathered her courage and sought those she knew were also affected by the weight of the shadow. Her first thought turned to Marcus, a childhood friend who had recently struggled with crippling anxiety. Their bond had always been steeped in unspoken understanding and unconditional support. The next morning, as the sun cast golden rays upon the dewdrops of early spring, Elara knocked on Marcus's door, her heart racing with anticipation. When he opened it, his surprise quickly morphed into warmth at seeing her. "Elara, what brings you here?" "I need your help, Marcus. I've become aware of our town's turmoil, the presence of something greater than ourselves," she began, her heart pounding as she laid her cards on the table. "I think we both have a role to play in this," his brows furrowed in confusion. "What do you mean?" "The townspeople need to reclaim their light, and I think you can help. You have a gift for healing. You always have." Her words flowed out, wrapping around him like an invisible thread. "Me? I don't know if I'm strong enough." He hesitated, his voice wavering at the edges. "What if I fail?" "Then we will fail together," Elara replied, her voice firm. "But we won't know unless we try." As she spoke, the shadows that had tainted their childhood laughter fell away, and Marcus's heart began to open. He felt the call of purpose resonate within himself, igniting a flicker of hope in his eyes. With a nod, he agreed to join her on this unexpected journey, brothers in arms against darkness. Encouraged by Marcus's acceptance, Elara's resolve solidified. She ventured into the vibrant marketplace, calling out to others she knew. As days turned into weeks, her network expanded to include not only friends, but those who had been touched by hardships and were also searching for purpose. One by one, they gathered, symbolizing unity itself. As each member joined their circle, Elara learned of their stories, their struggles, and their hidden gifts, which varied from enchantments woven through music to visions painted in dreams. Each individual brought a unique thread, and together they formed an intricate tapestry of hope, strength, and magic. With their powers entwined, they began regular meetings beneath the willow tree, creating a sanctuary where the energies of trust, collaboration, and friendship flourished. In those sacred moments, they relinquished their doubts and fears, taking courageous steps toward embracing their chosen identities. Elara led them in practices designed to awaken and amplify their innate abilities. As they explored their powers, Elara unearthed an uncanny ability to hear the vibrant heartbeats of the world around them, each pulse harmonizing with their own frequencies. One evening, as the twilight draped the landscape in shimmering indigo hues, Elara guided them into a deep meditative state, unlocking their collective potential. She felt a surge of energy flowing through them, the rhythmic heartbeat of the earth resonating with their combined resolve. The atmosphere hummed, charged with the essence of their unity. "No longer will we stand alone," Elara cried out, her voice echoing against the wind. "Together, we can harness our strengths and embrace the light, casting away the shadows that threaten us." At that moment, laughter mingled with the wind, releasing pent-up fears and transforming them into joyful stability. Eyes wide with wonder, each individual discovered new depths within themselves that had once been dormant. This was a tapestry woven not just with spells and magical energies, but with love, respect, and unwavering commitment to one another. But the darker energies, the Shadow Weaver sensed this growing connection, a rising tide of power and light threatening his dominance over the hearts of Eldoria. Ilara felt the shift long before the confrontations began. One moonlit night, as the group gathered beneath the willow tree, the winds howled, creating a cacophony of ominous sound. She caught sight of dark shadows gathering at the periphery, a clamoring horde of negative energy that coursed through the atmosphere like a cold whisper. A palpable tension swept over the group, and they looked to Ilara for direction. "We stand united," she declared, mustering courage. "We will push back against this darkness together." As they joined hands, a pulse of energy radiated from the center of their circle, weaving interwoven threads of light that illuminated the night sky. With every beat of the pulse, their focus grew stronger, but the shadows danced closer, testing their resolve. The darkness seemed to shift before them with malicious intent. Condemning whispers echoed between the rustling leaves, taunting them. "You think you can overcome me?" A voice echoed from the shadows, chilling Ilara to her core. "You are nothing but fleeting moments of hope." In that moment, doubt crept back into Ilara's mind, gnawing at her confidence as she faced the embodiment of her fears. But as she gazed into the eyes of her friends, brothers, and sisters in arms, she felt a surge of warmth pulse through her being, tethering her to their collective strength. With newfound fortitude, she raised her voice above the discord. "Together, we are stronger than fear. We are the light against the shadows." The shadows hesitated, and in that fleeting moment, Ilara's realization settled within her. Their unity was an unyielding force. As she focused on Marcus beside her, she whispered a reminder of their purpose, of the journey that had led them here. In that reflection, she harnessed her strength and turned toward the encroaching dark energy. She would no longer falter. She owed it to her companions and to herself. Together, empowered by the strength of conviction and compassion, they prepared to face the encroaching darkness that sought to quench their flame. Thus unfolded an incredible chapter in Ilara's journey, a prelude to the challenges that lay ahead. It was here, amidst the gathering of kindred spirits, that she recognized the true essence of her calling: to unite, to illuminate, and to stand resilient against the shadows, no matter how daunting they appeared. Part 3. The Dark Prelude. As the shadows thickened around Eldoria, the challenge before Ilara and her fellow chosen ones loomed dark and heavy. The air grew thick with tension, vibrating with the energy of both hope and foreboding. They could feel the encroaching presence of the Shadow Weaver, imbued with the fears and insecurities that their community harbored. The time had come for them to stand united to confront the darkness, threatening to tear their newfound harmony apart. After several weeks of preparation, the group reconvened beneath the willow tree, their sanctuary of strength and courage. Ilara looked at her companions, each face illuminated in the moonlight, reflecting a mix of determination, fear, and expectation. They were ready to face the darkness head-on, armed with the powerful connection they had nurtured. "We have trained together," Ilara began, her voice steady despite the turbulence within her. "And we have awakened our gifts. Now we must confront the shadow that seeks to devour our light." With each heartbeat, courage coursed through her. It was time to harness that energy, to channel it toward a singular objective: defeating the Shadow Weaver. Marcus raised his hand, his voice filled with resolve. "I've been practicing my healing spells, and I know we can support each other. Together, we can hold up the light." The others nodded, affirming the spirit of unity that had brought them together. As they stood shoulder to shoulder, a singular light ignited around them, radiating warmth that pushed back against the frigid darkness. It was at this moment that Ilara felt her awareness shift. She became acutely aware of the energies swirling around her. She envisioned a network, vibrant threads of light connecting each of them, woven in a symbiotic dance of unity and purpose. Fueled by this insight, she took a deep breath, grounding herself. "Let's channel our combined powers," she instructed. "Focus on our bonds, our intentions, and the sacred duty we have towards Eldoria. Together, we are stronger." As they closed their eyes, Elara led them in a deep breath, allowing her consciousness to expand. She envisioned their light as a beacon, pushing through the darkness, illuminating the path ahead. She felt their strength rise collectively, their energies entwining as information rushed to mutual consciousness. Each of their individual fears transformed into a powerful shield of courage, a reflection of love and connection. But the darkness wasn't idle. A thick mist began to swirl at the edges of their resolve. From within that mist, a voice slithered, dripping with malice. "Foolish children, you think you can extinguish me? Mere sparks in the face of true power?" The voice chilled Elara to her core. The shadows coalesced, giving form to the figure of the Shadow Weaver, an entity born from the deepest fears of humanity. He was tall and imposing, an amalgamation of shadow and despair, with eyes that glinted like polished obsidian, reflecting the anguish of those he had conquered. "Your unity cannot hold against my darkness," he taunted, advancing toward them, dense fog swirling in his wake. Elara's heart raced, but she held tight to the encouragement of her friends. Her determination began to counterbalance the fear that threatened to engulf her. "We have known light, and we will not yield to shadows," she declared, her voice steady. The chosen ones found their strength simultaneously. They grasped their hands tighter, and a collective spark ignited, a beam of brilliant energy piercing through the mist. Together, they focused their powers, tapping into each other's spirits, determined to command the shadows away. As the light pierced through, the Shadow Weaver roared in indignation, the sound reverberating within Elara's soul. "You think your bond can hold me?" At that moment, doubt threatened to crack the stalwart shield they had formed. Elara could feel the weight of her mortality bearing down upon her, as if she were standing on the precipice of despair. She had come too far to falter now. "Remember why we stand together," she called out, anchoring her voice to the hearts of her comrades. "We fight not just for ourselves, but for the future of Eldoria, for every soul trapped in the web of shadows." She closed her eyes, allowing the memories of laughter, love, and togetherness to wash over her. She could feel love in every pulse of energy within her. With this realization, she turned her gaze back to the Shadow Weaver, her eyes now ablaze. "Together, we summon our love, our hopes, and our dreams. This is our power." At her words, clarity dawned upon each of them. They poured their love, compassion, and unyielding connection into the luminous energy they had conjured, forging a barrier against the swirling darkness. The air shimmered as waves of color rippled outward, illuminating the shadows that had lurked on the periphery. The Shadow Weaver recoiled, his form shaking with rage. "Fools, you know not what you awaken." But in that moment, Elara realized that the darkness thrived on fear. As long as they stood united and unyielding, they could dismantle the very fabric that held the Shadow Weaver together. With each chant, they tore down the barriers of fear that separated them from their triumph. As Elara led her companions in a unified intent to push back against the entity, they began to feel their individual powers grow stronger, merging like a river toward the ocean. With a final surge of energy fueled by unwavering connection, they struck out toward the Shadow Weaver. "Go back to the depths of despair from whence you came," they cried together, united in purpose and passion. A blinding light engulfed the grove, merging their energies into an incorporeal force that surmounted the Shadow Weaver's malice. As the explosion of light expanded, shadows recoiled, tearing against themselves as if consumed by the very hatred they spread. In a kaleidoscope of radiance, the darkness finally shrank away, twisting in anguish as the last shreds dissipated into the ether. As quiet settled over the grove, the chosen ones stood breathless, hearts racing, but united in victory. They embraced one another, tears of relief and hope streaming down their faces. For they had held together against the darkness and emerged as something far greater than mere individuals together. They had wrought transformation and reclaimed the power of their light. Yet even as they celebrated their triumph, Elara felt an echo resonate within her heart. Something deeper, more profound, loomed beneath the surface. Shadows had been cast aside for now, but she understood that the confrontation with shadows was merely the beginning. Little did they know, the battle was far from over. An indelible mark had been etched into Eldoria, revealing a connection between light and darkness that would guide their journey deeper into realms uncharted. In quiet moments of reflection, Elara began to understand that the nature of existence was not always about the struggle against darkness, but about embracing it as a part of the cycle of life. And with this revelation, she felt a new chapter unfurling inside her, demanding exploration. Part 4. The Journey of Ascendance. The dawn glazed the horizon with hues of gold and rose as Eldoria began to awaken from the grip of shadow. Elara stood in the aftermath of the confrontation, the weight of significance pressing down heavily on her heart. They had triumphed, but in their victory, she sensed the siren call of the journey that lay ahead, both exhilarating and daunting. Each member of the group felt the residual energies of the battle, their hearts alight with the thrill of victory, yet aware of the challenges yet to come. As they gathered beneath the willow tree for the last time, the remnants of shadows danced at the edges of their consciousness, a persistent reminder that darkness lurked ever close. "I did not expect to find you all standing here after all we've been through," Elara mused, gazing around at each of her companions, their faces illuminated with the light of renewed purpose. "But today marks not an end, but a beginning, a realization that we are one with the cycle of existence, where light and darkness dance in eternal harmony." Mira stepped forward, her voice resonating with emotion. "You drew us together, Elara. With your tenacity, you taught us how to embrace our gifts, instead of allowing fear to paralyze us." She paused, and a soft smile broke through the somberness of the moment. "I feel ready to share my music with the world, to weave my magic, and perhaps even inspire others to overcome their own shadows." Everyone nodded, a wave of light reverberating through them. The very air pulsated with renewed purpose. Elara knew that their battle against the Shadow Weaver was not merely a singular event. It had awakened a deeper willingness to confront not only external forces, but also the internal struggles within themselves. The impending journey became more apparent as the conversation turned to their next steps. "But what do we do now?" Marcus asked, his brow furrowed. "The Shadow Weaver may have been pushed back, but he is not gone. What if he returns stronger?" A collective silence filled the air as each member contemplated his words. The vulnerability of their situation hung in the balance, reminding them of the fragility of light amidst shadows. Elara took a deep breath, and with unwavering steadiness, addressed the group. "We must work in harmony to teach our town about what it means to be chosen ones. Together, we can cultivate a community strong enough to resist the shadows. We do not simply possess power. We must share it." And as she spoke, she felt the vibrations of a calling deep within her, not merely as a leader of the group, but as a conduit of illumination, meant to guide those around her toward enlightenment. "We'll begin by holding gatherings in the town square, sharing our stories, offering workshops, and inviting others to join us in this journey of awakening," she continued, her excitement bubbling up inside. "We can teach them to embrace their gifts, to understand fear, and to find balance in chaos. With each individual accepting this mantle with fervor, the atmosphere shifted, pulsating with energy. Soon enough, they began crafting a plan to spread light around Eldoria. Each of them would carve out their niche, bringing their unique gifts to the forefront to awaken others. Days turned to weeks as Elara, alongside her companions, devoted their energies toward teaching and connecting. They hung banners adorned with symbols of unity and light in the town square and organized circles of sharing beneath the willow tree. The community began to respond, curiosity sparked in the hearts of those who had felt disenchanted, their spirits battling shadows unclear. As Elara shared her story, she became an authentic embodiment of resilience and compassion, illustrating how the journey of a chosen one was not merely about battling darkness, but also fostering light through understanding. Tales of hardship transformed into stories of hope, reverberating throughout the town like ripples upon a tranquil lake. Within this environment, the line between light and shadows became visible, the townspeople shedding layers of doubt and fear as they engaged with the gifts they had long buried within. Elara's charisma shone brightly, transforming the square into a haven of connection, wit, and purpose, a place where joy resonated even amid uncertainty. But amidst this newfound vibrancy, Elara sensed something stirring beneath the surface, a familiar chill that hinted at the remnants of shadows lurking nearby. One night, beneath a canopy of stars, Elara lay awake, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing against her chest. It was during these quiet hours that she was met with a vision ominous and true. She saw the Shadow Weaver's essence beginning to fester, a dark cloud swirling through the edges of Eldoria, growing hungrier, biding time as it awaited the perfect moment to strike again. The knowledge chilled her bones. Upon rising the next day, Elara gathered her circle. Sharing her chilling vision, each of them felt the pull of apprehension, but what remained was the uplifting spark of determination. They had fought one battle, but they grasped the importance of preparing for the next. "Fear not what is to come," she urged. "We shall not only counter the darkness, but also uplift our community. The more we step into our light, the weaker the shadows will become." They pledged to continue their mission, educating the townsfolk and encouraging each individual to look within, cultivate light, and create a network of unity. It was a promise, a bond of strength radiating with hope and trust. As seasons changed, Eldoria transformed from a town shrouded in uncertainty to a beacon of light. Elara often reminisced about her initial feelings of loneliness, where uncertainty clouded her heart. Now, surrounded by a community united by kindness and love, she understood that her identity as a chosen one was intrinsically tied to the web of connections she had fostered. But as she gazed out into the horizon one evening, a subtle wind began to whisper through the trees like an invitation to the unknown. Elara felt the stirrings of destiny call her beyond Eldoria, a prompting to learn from realms untold and wisdom uncharted. Is this the end of our journey? Mira pondered, reading the spark of adventure in Elara's eyes. Or does it mark a new chapter waiting to unfold? Elara's gaze remained steady as she looked at her friends, feeling the weight of her response. This is only the beginning. Our bonds have strengthened us, but our journey is far from over. There are more realms to explore and stories yet to write. As she said these words, she felt hope spill over her heart. It was in these moments of introspection, where hope and uncertainty intertwined, that she understood her true calling, to continue embracing both light and darkness, navigating the dance of life and relying upon the connections she had forged in her journey. United, they would embrace new quests and shared narratives, illuminating paths both for themselves and each soul they came across. They were, after all, the chosen ones, destined for harmony and wholeness, a celebration of love woven through every undertaking, forever altering the reality of the worlds they touched. As Elara looked up into the night sky, she felt the pull of greater possibilities and newfound responsibilities. And with the company of her chosen spirits beside her, She was ready to embark on the grand adventure that awaited. The air hung thick with anticipation as Alara and her companions gathered beneath the ancient willow tree, a hallowed ground that seemed to pulse with the energy of their shared purpose. They had emerged victorious over the Shadow Weaver, but Alara could feel an unsettling presence begin to coalesce at the edges of their collective light. It was as if a storm of emotions brewed in the distance, foreshadowing the dark battle that was yet to come. The camaraderie they had fostered provided a fragile blanket of comfort, yet Alara couldn't shake the gnawing trepidation that clawed at her insides. Coupled with the long road struggles, her doubts began to rise anew, whispering thoughts that threatened to unravel her newfound confidence. What if our light fades? What if we fail to protect those we love? It was then that they received an ominous warning from the townsfolk. People began disappearing one after another, lost to the lingering tendrils of darkness that sought to reclaim their grip. Time was of the essence, and the weight of expectation settled on Alara's shoulders. She had awakened to her gifts, but was she truly ready to face the darkness once more? As dusk fell, the shadows twisted around her, swirling as if alive with malicious intent. She sensed that the Shadow Weaver had not been vanquished completely. He was gathering strength, feeding off the fears that lingered within the hearts of the town's inhabitants. Alara felt the pressure of responsibility pulling taut across her chest. She could not allow history to repeat itself. Gathering her fellow chosen ones, Alara faced them. A resolute determination laced her voice. "We set forth tonight together. We will confront the darkness that has taken our people," she declared. But as she spoke, the murmurs of doubt cascaded inside her, contrasting with the fierce determination outwardly projected. "We must stand firm, but I fear what I might unleash within myself. Can we protect each other? Can we truly bring hope back?" Just as she began to waver, shadows twisted around them, taking the ominous shape of the Shadow Weaver, a dark silhouette looming over the grove. He had returned, incensed and vengeful, with an army of darkness, those lost souls that served him, pulling strength from their longing for hope. "You think your light can disperse me? You foolish chosen ones," he hissed, a sneer curling on his lips, eyes glinting with malevolence. A chorus of fear rippled through Alara's companions, freezing them momentarily. The dread clawed at Alara's spirit, leaving her internally conflicted. They had fought fiercely before, but this time it felt personal. Losing now would mean losing everything and everyone she held dear. But within her heart, she felt a flicker, a sense of purpose. "Remember what brought us together," she instructed fiercely, fighting to dispel the shadows of doubt creeping into her thoughts. "We are not alone." Guided by courage, she took a step forward as shimmering light surged around them, but self-doubt danced along the edges of her consciousness. Determined to confront her fears head-on, Alara called forth her power, centering herself amidst the swirling darkness. "You thrive on our despair, Shadow Weaver. You feed upon the fears we hold, but we will not fall to you." As she confronted the figure, the clamor of voices broke through the shadows, the souls held captive, calling for release. Alara extended her hand, drawing on the strength of those around her, invoking the essence of love, unity, and resilience, a heartfelt desire to restore balance. But the Shadow Weaver retaliated with a wave of darkness, a storm swirling around her. He sought to penetrate her heart with his venomous whispers, amplifying her insecurities. "You believe your love can conquer? Look how fragile your hope is. You are nothing without your friends." In that moment, Alara stepped back, the words biting deep into her core, a pulse of fear gripping her. Memories of loneliness flooded her mind, moments where she felt unseen. The would-be leader doubting her rightful place amongst her friends. The darkness would seize this moment of vulnerability. Yet just as the shadows pressed in, her companions began to glow with their inner light, faces resolute and determined. They linked hands, drawing strength from one another, breaking through the suffocating silence. "We stand together," they cried, their voices intertwining in harmony. The realization struck Alara like a bolt of lightning. The true strength lay not only within her, but in the unity she had forged alongside her friends through shared struggles. The power of love, community, and hope surged forward, igniting the flames of their combined strengths. Shaking off the Shadow Weaver's malign influence, her spirit soared, and with it, her voice rang clear, "We invite you to our light. Together, we break the chains of despair." As they joined forces, an apparition of light surged through their beings, illuminating the darkness that surrounded them. The shadows recoiled under the brilliance of their collective power. The entanglement shattered as the light swirled outward, igniting the hope buried deep within the lost souls. "Release them," Alara roared, channeling every ounce of love and gratitude, directing it towards the dark entity. Waves of shimmering light pulsed outward, consuming the depths of shadows until a collective scream echoed. The Shadow Weaver's anguished roar filled the air as he began to lose his grip on the souls tethered to him. But within that moment of brilliance, Alara faced a moral dilemma. It became clear that in eradicating the darkness, her powers could erase the Shadow Weaver entirely, extinguishing the light of shared understanding and healing. The choice weighed heavily upon her shoulders. Would she sacrifice his existence entirely, denying the essence of the battle and what it represented? Her heart pounded, desperation clawing at her soul. Memories of the friendship, connection, and unity of love echoed in her mind, drawing her back to her purpose. In that moment, she reached deep within herself to confront her fears and self-doubt, sending forth a prayer not to destroy him, but to redeem him. Through her light, she called out, "We do not seek to vanquish you. We seek understanding." With every ounce of hope coiling around her heart, Alara struck a balance, a truce amid the battle, as she extended a luminous tendril toward the Shadow Weaver, her voice unwavering. "You do not have to be alone. Let go of hate and allow the light to embrace you." As light erupted around them, Alara felt a soft sigh break through the darkness, the presence of hurt transforming. The Shadow Weaver faltered momentarily, the expression of defiance wavering. At that pivotal moment, Alara's heart knew that true courage lay in compassion, and together with her companions, they pushed forth a wave of love that swept through the shadows, offering release to the light within the darkness. In that sacred embrace, the Shadow Weaver hovered between worlds, tears mixing with shadows before dissipating into the winds. As light enveloped the grove, Alara could feel the collective heartbeat, a strong rhythm pulsating with duality, a balance of shadows and light forever intertwined. Exhausted yet triumphant, Alara realized she had not only faced darkness, but had reclaimed her spirit through unity and love. As the shadow lifted, freedom cascaded around them, and once ensnared souls emerged, blinking against the radiance enveloping them. The sacrifices endured would not be forgotten. Together, they had paved the path to hope and understanding. The dawn broke softly over Eldoria, infusing the skies with hues of pink and gold, a promise of new beginnings woven into the very fabric of the air. As Alara and her companions emerged from the aftermath of the encroaching darkness, they stood united, their hearts swollen with the profound realization of their power. The battle against the Shadow Weaver had forever changed them, illuminating not just their paths, but the entire community of Eldoria. In the days that followed, whispers of their triumph reverberated through the town, stirring hope among those whose spirits had been dimmed. The people rallied together, determined to build upon the foundations of unity that Alara had nurtured amongst her friends. Guided by their example, the townsfolk began to unveil their own potential, learning to harness their gifts, to embrace both the light and the shadows within themselves. Alara felt a warm swell of pride as she watched the community blossom. Workshops and gatherings flourished as individuals learned to weave their own magic and support each other in navigating the intricacies of existence. They shared stories, and laughter filled the air, a melodic reminder of the power of connection and the magic each soul carried. However, the path had not been without scars. The memory of the darkness lingered at the edges of Alara's consciousness, a reminder of the fragility of balance. She often spent her evenings beneath the willow tree, contemplating the horizon, feeling grateful yet aware that the battle between light and shadow was an ongoing journey, a cosmic dance that spiraled through existence. In her meditations, she felt the call of awakening pulse deeper within her, and it filled her with both excitement and trepidation. The experiences had nurtured her spirit, yet there was still a yearning and undeniable calling for exploration beyond the borders of Eldoria. One moonlit evening, while sharing her thoughts with Mira and Marcus, Elara voiced her heart. "I feel something stirring. The earth speaks in ways deeper than we yet understand, and I believe our journey is just beginning. There exist other realms that may hold answers to questions we have yet to ask. This expansion calls to me." Mira nodded, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. What if our journey leads us to others like us? Could we inspire them as we did here? Marcus chimed in, filled with enthusiasm. And in turn, they might help us discover more about the balance we seek. In that moment, Elara felt an electric connection to her companions, an affirmation that they were woven together in this quest. A journey not just for themselves, but for those they had yet to meet. Their spirits intertwined, binding them infinitely together as they prepared to step into the vast unknown. That night, as the stars twinkled above like ancient sentinels, Elara envisioned a new world stretching before them, a tapestry of experiences, discoveries, and connections yet to be made. It was a world where shadows could be embraced, paths explored, and purpose defined. Keeping her gaze on the horizon, she felt exhilaration seep into her being. Together, they stepped into the dawn, leaving behind the remnants of yesterday's shadows as they paved the way for the future. For within each of them lay the spirit of the chosen ones, bound not by destiny alone, but by the journey into the heart of existence itself. They were forever changed, embarking on a new chapter where light and darkness harmonized, creating a kaleidoscope of colors, emotions, and experiences that would illuminate both their paths and those of many to come. In that fleeting moment, the cycle continued, weaving them into the next adventure, a promise of exploration, discovery, and an eternal connection to the divine essence that linked every soul together. And as the sun began to rise, so too were they ready to uncover the exceptional within every ordinary day, reminder that they carried the light, igniting change and inspiring hope wherever they ventured. And thus, their journey was just beginning.